Hey everyone, I'm Mono Scaling. I'm here to guide you today. If you use this video to drift off to sleep, please tap like, hit subscribe, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now get comfortable and relax. My name is Grace Williams, and I need to tell someone what happened at Lake Powell last month. I've been trying to convince myself it was stress or exhaustion or some kind of gas leak, but I know what I saw. I know what I felt. And I need to write it down before I start forgetting the details because I can already feel my brain trying to smooth over the rough edges, trying to make it make sense. I was at the Waweep RV park with my friend Melissa. We'd been planning the trip for months, both of us burned out from our jobs, needing to get away from Phoenix for a week. Melissa worked in insurance, and I was doing medical billing, and we were both at that point where we'd wake up in the morning and immediately want to go back to sleep. The trip was supposed to be simple. Drive up to Lake Powell, park the RV, spend the days hiking or kayaking, spend the nights drinking wine and catching up. We'd been friends since college but had only been seeing each other once or twice a year lately. We got there on a Sunday afternoon in late October. The season was winding down, so the campground was maybe a third full. Most of the people there were retirees in massive motorhomes, the kind with satellite dishes and full kitchens. Our RV was a rental. Nothing fancy, but it had everything we needed. 2 narrow beds, a small kitchen area, a bathroom barely big enough to turn around in. The walls were thin. You could hear everything from outside, every conversation from nearby campsites, every car door closing. We set up in spot 47, which was on the outer edge of the campground backing up to empty desert. Melissa liked the privacy. I would have preferred being closer to other people, to the bathrooms and the camp store, but I didn't say anything. She'd done most of the planning, and I was just grateful to be away from work for a week. The first night was fine. We made pasta on the little stove, drank too much wine, talked about our lives. Melissa had recently ended a 3-year relationship, and I'd been going through my own stuff. My mom had died 6 months earlier, and I was still trying to figure out how to exist in the world without her. We didn't talk about the heavy things much. Mostly we just enjoyed being away from our normal routines. Around midnight, we went to bed. The RV was cold. October nights in Utah get down into the 40s, so we both bundled up in our sleeping bags. I was in the bed at the front of the RV, and Melissa was in the back. The walls creaked as the temperature dropped, and I could hear wind pushing against the side of the vehicle. I fell asleep listening to Melissa scroll through her phone in the other room. I woke up around 3 in the morning because I heard something. Not a loud sound, just a soft rustling against the wall next to my bed. Like fabric brushing against fabric. I lay there listening, thinking maybe it was just the wind. But then I heard it again. A slow, deliberate sound. Like someone was running their hand along the outside of the RV. I didn't move. I just lay there in the dark, listening. The sound continued for maybe 30 seconds, then stopped. I waited, barely breathing, but it didn't come back. Eventually, I convinced myself it was nothing and went back to sleep. The next morning, I didn't mention it to Melissa. We made coffee and ate breakfast and headed out to explore the area. We hiked along the rim of a canyon, took photos, stopped at a scenic overlook. It was a good day. When we got back to the campground in the late afternoon, we were both tired and happy. That night we made dinner and sat outside at the picnic table, watching the sun set over the red rocks. There was an older couple at the site next to ours, maybe in their 70s, driving a huge RV that probably cost more than my car. They were friendly, waved hello, asked us how we were enjoying the area. The woman's name was Patricia and her husband was Tom. They'd been coming to Lake Powell for 20 years, they said. They loved it here. After dark, Melissa and I went back inside the RV. We played cards and listened to a podcast. Around 11, we started getting ready for bed. I was brushing my teeth in the tiny bathroom when I heard Melissa call out from the back of the RV. "Grace, did you just knock on the wall?" I came out of the bathroom. "What?" "Someone just knocked on the wall back here 3 times. Probably just Tom or Patricia. Maybe they need something." Melissa looked at me. "Why would they knock on the wall instead of the door?" I didn't have an answer for that. We both stood there for a moment listening, but there was nothing. No more knocking. No voices outside. After a while, Melissa shrugged it off and we went to bed. I lay awake for a long time that night, listening. I kept thinking about the sound I'd heard the night before, the rustling against the wall. I kept waiting for it to happen again, but the RV was quiet except for the wind and the occasional creak of the frame settling in the cold. I must have fallen asleep eventually, because I woke up suddenly in complete darkness. My heart was already pounding before I was fully conscious, that animal sense that something was wrong. I lay perfectly still, trying to figure out what had woken me. Then I felt it. Something touched the wall next to my bed, not from inside, from outside. I felt the pressure through the thin wall, felt the RV's interior wall flex slightly inward. It was a hand. I knew it was a hand because I could feel the shape of fingers pressing gently against the wall, right at the level where my head was on the pillow. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The fingers moved slowly, tracing down the wall like someone was feeling for something. Then another hand pressed against the wall near my shoulder. Then another near my hip. Too many hands. I wanted to scream, but my throat had closed up. The hands kept pressing, kept moving, and I could hear the faint sound of palms sliding against the metal exterior of the RV. It went on for what felt like hours, but was probably only a minute or two. Then, all at once, the pressure stopped. I lay there shaking, sweating despite the cold, until the sky started getting light. I didn't sleep again that night. In the morning, I looked exhausted. Melissa asked if I was okay, and I told her I hadn't slept well. I didn't tell her about the hands. I knew how it would sound. Even to me in the daylight, it seemed impossible. Maybe I'd been dreaming. Maybe I'd experienced some kind of sleep paralysis. I'd read about that before, how your brain can create vivid hallucinations when you're caught between sleeping and waking. We spent that day at the lake. We rented a kayak and paddled around the blue water, surrounded by red rock formations. It was beautiful and peaceful, and I tried to convince myself that everything was fine. But I couldn't shake the memory of those hands, the way they'd pressed against the wall, the way there had been too many of them. That afternoon, while we were packing up our kayaking gear, I noticed something odd. There were handprints on the side of the RV right where my bed was on the inside. Small, dusty handprints, like someone had pressed their hands against the white paint. There were at least 7 or 8 of them, overlapping slightly. "Melissa," I said, "look at this." She came over and stared at the handprints. "That's weird. Must have been there when we picked up the RV." "I don't think so. I would have noticed. Maybe kids were playing around here while we were gone." I didn't argue with her, but I didn't think kids had made those prints. They were too high up for one thing, and there was something about the way they were positioned that bothered me. They weren't random. They looked deliberate, like someone had been feeling along the wall, searching for something. We went back inside the RV and I tried to forget about it. We made dinner, chicken and rice, and opened another bottle of wine. Patricia and Tom stopped by to chat for a few minutes. They asked if we were planning to stay the whole week, and we said yes. Tom mentioned that there had been some kids causing trouble in the campground a few nights ago, running around after dark, making noise. He said the camp host had talked to them. That explains the handprints, Melissa said after they left. But it didn't explain what I'd felt in the middle of the night. It didn't explain the pressure against the wall, the sensation of fingers moving across the surface. That night, before bed, I checked all the locks on the RV door. I pulled the curtains closed on every window. Melissa noticed and asked if I was okay, and I told her I was just being careful. She looked at me strangely but didn't push it. I lay in bed that night, wide awake, waiting. The wind had picked up, and I could hear it whistling around the RV, making the whole vehicle rock slightly. Every sound made me tense. Every creak made my heart race. Around 2 a.m, it started again. The hands pressed against the wall, multiple points of pressure moving slowly. This time I forced myself to sit up, to turn on the small reading light above my bed. The light didn't help. I could still feel the pressure through the wall, could still sense the movement of fingers on the other side. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, then climbed over to the window nearest my bed. I pulled back the curtain and shined the light outside. There was nothing there. Just empty darkness and the vague outline of desert scrub beyond the campsite. But the hands were still pressing against the wall. I could feel them. I could see the wall flexing inward slightly, see the subtle depressions where pressure was being applied. I was so focused on the wall that I didn't notice Melissa standing in the doorway until she spoke. "Grace? What are you doing?" I jumped and nearly dropped my phone. "Sorry, I thought I heard something outside." She looked at me for a long moment, then came over to the window and looked out. "There's nothing there." "I know, I'm probably just being paranoid. You've been acting weird since yesterday. What's going on?" I wanted to tell her. I wanted to explain about the hands, about the pressure against the wall, about the feeling that something was outside the RV at night, touching it, searching for a way in. But I couldn't find the words. It all sounded insane. "I'm just not sleeping well," I said finally. Being away from home, new environment, all that. Melissa didn't look convinced, but she nodded. "Do you want to switch beds? Maybe it would help." I almost said yes, almost moved to the back of the RV where her bed was. But something stopped me. Some instinct that said it wouldn't matter, that whatever was happening would find me wherever I slept. "No, I'm okay. Thanks, though." She went back to bed, and I lay down again, listening. The pressure against the wall had stopped, but I knew it would come back. The next morning I was so exhausted I could barely function. Melissa suggested we take it easy that day, maybe just hang around the campground, relax by the lake. I agreed. I didn't have the energy to do anything else. We set up camp chairs near the water and spent the morning reading. It was peaceful, normal. I started to feel a little better, started to convince myself that maybe I was just stressed and tired and my mind was playing tricks on me. Around noon, Tom came by to chat. Patricia wasn't with him. He said she'd gone into Page to do some shopping. He sat down in one of our camp chairs and we talked about nothing for a while. The weather, the hiking trails, the best places to eat in Page. Then, almost casually, he said, "You two been having any trouble at night?" I looked up from my book. "What kind of trouble?" "Oh, just noises, things like that. We've heard some strange sounds the last couple nights. Patricia thinks it might be coyotes, but I'm not so sure." "What kind of sounds?" Melissa asked. Tom seemed to think about it. "Hard to describe. Scratching maybe, or rustling, like something moving around between the RVs. I went out to look last night with my flashlight, but I didn't see anything." My stomach tightened. "What time was this?" "Oh, maybe 2 or 3 in the morning." I wasn't really paying attention to the clock. The same time I'd been feeling the hands against the wall. I wanted to ask Tom if he'd seen anything near our RV, if he'd noticed anyone or anything around our site, but I didn't know how to phrase the question without sounding crazy. "It's probably just animals," Melissa said. "Yeah, probably," Tom agreed, but he didn't sound convinced. After he left, Melissa and I sat in silence for a few minutes, then she said, "You've been hearing things too, haven't you?" I nodded. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because it sounds insane." And I wasn't sure if I was actually hearing anything or if I was just imagining it. "What have you heard?" I told her. "Not everything." I left out the part about feeling the hands pressing against the wall, about seeing the wall flex inward. But I told her about the rustling, the sounds of movement outside the RV at night. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Let's pack up and leave. We can go home early. We've already paid for the week." "I don't care about the money. If something's bothering you this much, we should just go." Part of me wanted to agree, wanted to pack up the RV right then and drive back to Phoenix. But another part of me felt like leaving would be admitting defeat, admitting that something had frightened me enough to run away. And I didn't even know what that something was. Maybe it really was just animals. Maybe it really was all in my head. "Let's give it one more night," I said. "If anything else happens, we'll leave in the morning." Melissa looked unhappy, but she nodded. That afternoon, Patricia came back from Page and invited us over for dinner. She said she'd bought steaks and had way too much food for just her and Tom. We accepted, grateful for the distraction and the company. We ate at their picnic table as the sun went down. Patricia and Tom were good people, easy to talk to. They told us about their kids and grandkids, about the places they'd traveled in their RV. Patricia was a retired teacher, and Tom had worked in construction. They'd bought the RV when they retired and had been living in it full-time for the last 5 years, driving from place to place, staying wherever they wanted for as long as they wanted. Best decision we ever made, Tom said. Complete freedom. No mortgage, no property taxes, no neighbors to worry about. Except for the occasional noisy campers, Patricia added with a smile. What about the sounds at night? I asked. Have you figured out what they are? Patricia and Tom exchanged a glance. Then Patricia said, Oh, Tom's just being silly. It's probably just wildlife. This is the desert. There are all kinds of animals out here. But I noticed that she didn't quite meet my eyes when she said it. And I noticed the way Tom looked down at his plate, suddenly very interested in his steak. We finished dinner and headed back to our RV around 9. Melissa seemed more relaxed after the meal and the conversation. I felt better too, or at least I told myself I did. But as soon as we were inside the RV with the door locked, the anxiety came flooding back. I tried to distract myself by taking a shower, but the bathroom felt claustrophobic and I kept imagining I heard sounds outside the thin walls. I got out quickly and dried off, then checked all the windows again to make sure they were locked. You're doing it again, Melissa said. Doing what? That thing where you check everything 3 times. You're making me nervous. Sorry, I just want to make sure we're secure. We're fine. It's an RV campground. There are people all around us. Nothing's going to happen. I wanted to believe her. I got into my bed and pulled the sleeping bag up to my chin. Melissa turned off the lights and went to her own bed in the back of the RV. For a while, I could hear her moving around, getting settled. Then everything was quiet except for the wind. I don't know how long I lay there before I fell asleep. I was trying so hard to stay awake, to remain alert, that I think I exhausted myself. One moment I was staring at the ceiling, and the next I was opening my eyes to complete darkness and the sensation of something being very wrong. The hands were back. But this time there were more of them. Many more. I could feel pressure points all along the wall next to my bed, hands pressing against the metal and siding, fingers moving, searching, and this time I could hear them, a soft sliding sound, like skin against metal, and beneath that, barely audible, something else. Breathing. I lay frozen, too terrified to move or call out for Melissa. The hands moved in patterns that seemed almost coordinated, like they were working together, feeling along the wall for weak points or gaps. Some of them pressed hard enough that I could see the wall bowing inward slightly in the faint light from the window. Then one of them found the window. I watched in horror as fingers appeared at the edge of the curtain, pushing against the glass. The window was locked, but I could see the fingers pressing, testing, trying to find a way to open it. They were pale in the darkness, impossibly pale, and they moved with a strange, jerky motion that didn't look quite right. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run, but I couldn't make myself move. I just lay there watching those fingers work at the window, watching more and more hands press against the wall around me. Then I heard Melissa's voice from the back of the RV, tight with fear. Grace, are you awake? Yes, I whispered. There's someone outside, I can hear them. The hands stopped moving. Everything went still. For a few seconds, there was complete silence. Then the entire RV shook hard, like something had slammed against it. Melissa screamed. I heard her scrambling out of bed, heard her footsteps as she ran toward the front of the RV. She grabbed my shoulder and I nearly screamed myself. We need to leave, she said. Right now. What about Tom and Patricia? Should we? Another impact against the side of the RV cut me off. This one was harder, more violent. The whole vehicle rocked on its suspension. We need to go, Melissa said again. She was already moving toward the driver's seat, her phone's flashlight on. I climbed out of bed and followed her. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely help as we tried to prepare the RV to drive. We had to disconnect the electrical and water hookups, but we didn't care about doing it properly. We just wanted to get out of there. Melissa got in the driver's seat and started the engine. I was unhooking the water line when I heard Tom's voice calling out, "Grace, what's going on?" I looked up and saw him standing outside his RV in pajama pants and a t-shirt holding a flashlight. Behind him, Patricia appeared in the doorway of their RV. "We're leaving," I called back. "Something's wrong. There's something out here." Tom shined his flashlight around the campsite, then looked back at me. "There's nothing here. What did you see?" I didn't know how to answer that. What had I seen? Just hands pressing against walls. Just fingers at the window. Nothing that made sense. Nothing I could explain to someone else without sounding insane. "We just need to go," I said. "I'm sorry." I climbed into the RV and Melissa started to pull out of the campsite. As we drove away, I looked back through the rear window and saw Tom and Patricia standing there in the dark, watching us leave. Tom raised his hand in a wave, and for just a second, in the glow of his flashlight, I thought I saw something behind them. Multiple figures standing in the shadows between the RVs. But it was too dark to be sure. And then we turned a corner and they were out of sight. We drove through the campground to the exit, going too fast for safety, but neither of us caring. Melissa's hands were white-knuckled on the steering wheel. My heart was racing so fast I thought I might pass out. We made it to the main road and Melissa turned toward the highway, toward Page and civilization and away from Lake Powell. For a few minutes, neither of us said anything. We just drove through the dark desert, the RV's headlights cutting through the blackness. Then Melissa said, "Did you see them?" "See what?" "The people, standing around our RV. There were so many of them." My blood went cold. I thought I imagined that. There were dozens of them, maybe more. They were just standing there, pressed up against the RV, touching it. She was crying now, tears running down her face. "What were they, Grace? What the fuck were they?" I didn't have an answer. I was crying too, silent tears that I couldn't seem to stop. We drove for about 20 minutes before Melissa pulled over at a rest stop. We sat there in the idling RV, both of us trying to calm down, trying to process what had happened. "We should call the police," I said finally. "And tell them what? That we got scared by some sounds in the night? That we thought we saw people standing around our RV?" She was right. We had no evidence, no photos, no proof of anything. Just our own fear and paranoia. "Let's just go home," Melissa said. "We'll return the RV and Page, get a hotel room for the night, and drive back to Phoenix tomorrow. We can forget this whole thing ever happened." I nodded. That sounded like a good plan. That sounded rational and reasonable. We drove into Page and found a hotel near the RV rental place. We parked in the lot, too exhausted to deal with returning the RV that night. We'd do it in the morning. We got a room with 2 beds and locked the door and checked the windows, and I even pushed a chair under the door handle for extra security. We didn't talk about what had happened. We just lay in our separate beds in the dark, listening to the sounds of the hotel, ice machines, people walking in the hallway, traffic outside. I must have fallen asleep eventually, because I woke up to sunlight streaming through the window. For a moment I felt relief. We'd made it through the night. We were safe. Everything was going to be okay. Then I noticed that Melissa's bed was empty. I sat up, looking around the room. "Melissa?" No answer. I checked the bathroom, but it was empty. Her phone was on the nightstand next to her bed. Her shoes were still by the door. But she was gone. I tried not to panic. She probably just went to get breakfast, I told myself. Or maybe she went to check on the RV. She'd be back any minute. I got dressed and waited. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour. She didn't come back. I called her phone, but it just rang on the nightstand. I went outside and walked around the hotel parking lot looking for her. The RV was still there, locked up exactly as we'd left it. But there was no sign of Melissa. I went to the front desk and asked if they'd seen her. The clerk said no, he'd just started his shift an hour ago. I asked if I could check the security footage, and he said he'd need to talk to his manager. I went back to the room and sat on the bed trying to decide what to do. Should I call the police? Should I wait a little longer? Maybe she'd gone for a walk and would be back soon. Another hour passed. Then 2 hours. I called the police. They came and took a report. They searched the hotel and the surrounding area. They interviewed me about what we'd been doing in Page, why we'd left the campground in the middle of the night. I told them everything, about the sounds, the hands, the feeling of being watched. I could see them exchanging glances, could see them deciding I was probably just hysterical or paranoid. But they were professional about it. They said they'd look for Melissa, said they'd check with local hospitals and put out a notice. I spent the rest of the day in that hotel room waiting. The police told me not to leave town. I didn't want to leave anyway, not without Melissa. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept the lights on and sat in the chair by the window watching the parking lot, waiting for Melissa to appear. Every person who walked by made my heart jump, but none of them were her. Around 3 a.m, someone knocked on my door. I looked through the peephole and saw Melissa standing in the hallway. Relief flooded through me, so intense I almost collapsed. I yanked open the door. "Melissa, where have you been? Are you okay?" She was wearing the same clothes she'd been wearing when we went to bed. Her hair was messy, and there was dirt on her hands and face. But she was smiling. "I'm fine," she said. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside and she walked into the room. She moved past me to her bed and sat down, still smiling that strange smile. "Where were you?" I demanded. "I've been worried sick. The police are looking for you." "I went for a walk," she said. "For almost 24 hours, without your phone, without telling me." I needed to clear my head. "I'm sorry I worried you." Something was wrong. The way she was sitting, too still, too straight. The way she was looking at me, too steady, too focused. And that smile, it never quite reached her eyes. "Melissa, what happened? Where did you really go?" "I told you. I went for a walk." She tilted her head slightly, studying me. "You seem upset." "Of course I'm upset. You disappeared. I thought something had happened to you." "Nothing happened to me. I'm fine, see?" She held out her hands, palms up, like she was showing me she had nothing to hide. But I noticed she wasn't blinking. She just stared at me with that fixed smile, her eyes wide and unmoving. "I'm calling the police," I said. "I need to let them know you're back." "Don't do that," she said. The smile didn't waver. "There's no need. I'm here now. Everything's fine." I picked up my phone anyway. As soon as I touched it, Melissa stood up from the bed, moved so fast I barely saw her move. She was across the room in an instant, her hand clamping down on my wrist. Her grip was ice cold. "I said don't do that," she repeated, still smiling, still not blinking. I tried to pull away, but her fingers were like iron. She squeezed harder and I felt something in my wrist pop. Pain shot up my arm and I dropped the phone. "Melissa, you're hurting me." "Am I?" She looked down at her hand on my wrist as if she'd never seen it before. "I'm sorry. I don't know my own strength sometimes." She released me and I stumbled backward, cradling my injured wrist. Melissa stood there watching me, her head tilted at that odd angle, her smile never changing. "What's wrong with you?" I whispered. "Nothing's wrong with me. I feel better than ever, actually. I feel refreshed." She took a step toward me. "Don't you want to feel refreshed, Grace? Stay away from me. I'm trying to help you. You've been so stressed lately, so anxious. I can make it better. We can go back." "Back where?" "To the lake, to the campground. They're waiting for us." My stomach dropped. "Who's waiting?" "All of them." Her smile widened. "They want to help you too. They want to help everyone. They're very friendly once you get to know them." I backed toward the door, keeping my eyes on Melissa. She didn't try to stop me. She just stood there, watching with that terrible smile, her eyes wide and unblinking. "Where are you going?" she asked. "To get help." "You don't need help. You need to come back with me." I grabbed the door handle and pulled it open. Then I ran. I ran down the hallway and down the stairs and through the lobby. The night clerk called after me, but I didn't stop. I burst out into the parking lot and kept running. I could hear Melissa behind me. Not running, walking. Slowly, steadily, like she had all the time in the world, like she knew I couldn't get away. I ran to the RV and fumbled with the keys, my injured wrist throbbing. I got the door open and threw myself inside, slamming it shut behind me and locking it. I climbed into the driver's seat and started the engine. In the rearview mirror, I saw Melissa standing in the parking lot, still smiling, still watching. She raised one hand and waved at me. A slow, deliberate wave. I put the RV in drive and got out of there. I drove through the night, too terrified to stop. I kept checking the rearview mirror, expecting to see Melissa somehow following me. But there was nothing behind me except empty highway. As the sun came up, I finally started to feel like maybe I could breathe again. I called the police from a gas station outside of Flagstaff. I told them that Melissa had come back to the hotel and that something was wrong with her, that she'd hurt me and I'd had to run. They said they'd look into it. They told me to go to a hospital and get my wrist checked out. I said I would, but I didn't. I just wanted to get home. I made it back to Phoenix by noon. I returned the RV and told the rental company that my friend had gotten sick and we'd had to cut the trip short. They didn't seem to care. I drove home in my own car and locked myself in my apartment and tried to figure out what the hell had happened. The police called me a few days later. They said they'd found Melissa in Page, that she'd checked into a hospital claiming she had no memory of where she'd been for those 24 hours. They said she seemed confused and disoriented, but otherwise healthy. They asked me if I wanted to press charges for assault. I said no. What would be the point? I tried calling Melissa after that, but she didn't answer. I texted her and got no response. Eventually, her number stopped working altogether. I called her workplace and they said she'd quit without giving notice. I called her parents and they said they hadn't heard from her. It was like she'd vanished. A month went by, then 2 months. I tried to go back to normal, tried to forget about what had happened at Lake Powell. I went to work, paid my bills, saw my friends. I told everyone that the camping trip had been fine, that Melissa and I had just had a disagreement and decided to go our separate ways. No one questioned it, but I couldn't forget. I couldn't stop thinking about those hands pressing against the wall, about the figures standing in the shadows around the RV, about the way Melissa had looked at me in that hotel room with her fixed smile and unblinking eyes. 3 months after we came back from Lake Powell, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, just my name and address written in careful block letters on the envelope. Inside was a single photograph. It was a picture of the Waweep RV Park, Spot 47. I recognized the desert landscape in the background, the shape of the rocks. But the campsite wasn't empty. There was an RV parked there, not the one we'd rented, but another one, similar. And standing around it, pressed up against the sides, were dozens of people. Maybe more than dozens. They filled the frame, all of them facing the RV, all of them with their hands pressed against its walls. I couldn't see their faces clearly in the photo, but I could see that they were all smiling. On the back of the photograph, someone had written a message in the same block letters. "Come back soon. We miss you." I burned the photograph immediately, but I couldn't burn the memory of it. I still see it when I close my eyes. All those people pressing their hands against the RV, all those smiling faces, and sometimes late at night when my apartment is quiet and dark, I feel it. That same pressure against the walls. Those same fingers, searching, testing, trying to find a way in. I've moved twice since then. It doesn't help. The hands always find me. I've tried to convince myself that I'm imagining it, that it's just trauma or PTSD or some kind of anxiety disorder. I've even gone to therapy, though I haven't told my therapist the full story. She thinks I'm just dealing with stress from my mother's death and the end of a friendship. But I know the truth. I know what's out there, waiting. I know that whatever took Melissa is still looking for me. And I know that one night I'll be too tired or too scared or too worn down to fight it anymore. The worst part is the not knowing. I don't know what they are or what they want. I don't know if Melissa is still alive somewhere, if she's still herself, or if she's become something else. I don't know if Tom and Patricia are okay. or if they became victims too, or if they were part of it all along. Last week I drove by the RV rental place. I don't know why, I just found myself heading in that direction, like something was pulling me there. I parked across the street and sat in my car, watching. After a while, I saw someone returning an RV. It was a woman, maybe a few years younger than me. She looked tired but happy, like she'd just come back from a good trip. I wanted to run over to her to warn her, to tell her to never rent an RV again, to never go camping, to stay away from Lake Powell and the Waweep RV Park and anywhere that might have those things, those people with their pale hands and fixed smiles. But I didn't. I just sat there and watched her finish the paperwork and get into her car and drive away. And I wondered if she'd already been touched by them, if they'd already found her in the night and pressed their hands against her walls and marked her for later. Sometimes I think about going back, about driving up to Lake Powell and finding spot 47 and parking there and waiting to see what happens. Maybe if I faced them directly, if I saw them clearly, I'd understand. Maybe I'd find answers. Maybe I'd find Melissa. But I'm not that brave, or maybe I'm not that stupid. I don't know which. So instead I just keep living my life day by day, trying to pretend that everything's normal. I go to work and come home and lock all my doors and windows. And every night I lie in bed listening to the sounds of the building settling, the wind against the walls, the neighbors moving around in their apartments, and I wait for the hands to come back. They always do. Just last night I felt them again. Multiple points of pressure against the bedroom wall, fingers moving in slow patterns, searching. I didn't move. I didn't scream. I just lay there in the dark, feeling them work at the wall, feeling them test for weak spots. And I realized something that made my blood run cold. Each night, they're getting a little bit stronger. Each night, they press a little bit harder. The walls are thin and they're patient. Eventually, they'll find a way in. I'm writing all this down because I need someone to know what happened. I need someone to understand. If something happens to me, if I disappear or if I show up somewhere with a strange smile and empty eyes, I want there to be a record. I want someone to know that I didn't just lose my mind. I want someone to know that there's something out there in the desert, something that waits in the dark around campgrounds and RV parks, something that presses its hands against thin walls and searches for ways in. Don't go to Lake Powell. Don't stay at the Waweep RV Park. And if you're camping somewhere, anywhere, and you feel something pressing against the walls at night, don't ignore it. Don't convince yourself it's just the wind or animals or your imagination. Run. Get as far away as you can, as fast as you can, and don't look back. Because once they've touched your walls, once they've marked you, they'll never stop looking for you. They'll follow you wherever you go. They'll wait outside your home, pressing their pale hands against the windows and doors, patient and persistent and impossible to escape. The walls are thin. They've always been thin. And I can hear them breathing on the other side. My name is Natalie Clark. This happened last September at Lake Powell in Utah, and I need to write it down before I forget more of it than I already have. We went there for our anniversary, me and Marcus. 5 years together. We'd been talking about doing something different, getting away from Phoenix for a week. Marcus found this RV rental place online, said it would be an adventure. Neither of us had driven an RV before. The thing was massive, 32 feet, and I was terrified the entire drive up, convinced he was going to clip a semi or roll us into a ditch. The campground was called Lone Rock Beach. You could park right on the sand, basically set up wherever you wanted as long as you were a certain distance from the water. It was off-season, late September, so there weren't many people. Maybe 10 other RVs spread out across the beach. The nearest one to us was at least 200 yards away. We got there around 3 in the afternoon. The sky was clear. Marcus backed the RV into a spot he liked, and I helped him level it using these little blocks we'd rented with the vehicle. It took us an hour to figure out the hookups. Water, electricity, the black water tank that I didn't want to think about too much. By the time we were done, the sun was starting to drop behind the rocks. That first night was normal. We cooked pasta on the little stove, drank wine, sat outside in the camping chairs we'd brought. The lake was beautiful. The rock formations around us were red and orange in the sunset. Marcus took about 50 photos. We went to bed around 11. The next morning I woke up and Marcus wasn't in the bed. I found him outside, standing by the RV in his boxers, staring at something. "What's wrong?" I asked. He pointed. "Was that there yesterday?" About 50 yards from our RV, there was a chain-link fence. It was maybe 6 feet tall, formed a perfect square around a patch of empty sand. Each side was probably 30 feet long. The fence looked old, rusted in places, but sturdy. There was no gate, no opening. Just 4 sides connected at the corners. "I don't think so," I said. But I wasn't sure. We'd been focused on setting up camp yesterday and it had been getting dark. Maybe we just hadn't noticed it. "What's it for?" Marcus asked. I didn't know. There was nothing inside the fence, just sand, same as everywhere else on the beach. No signs, no markers, no equipment. It wasn't blocking anything or protecting anything. It was just there. Marcus walked over to it. I followed him. He touched the fence, pushed on it a little. It didn't budge. The posts were cemented into the sand somehow. "Maybe it's for archaeology," I said. "Like, they're gonna dig here or something." Without any signs, I shrugged. We walked around the perimeter. There really was no entrance. All 4 sides were intact, the chain link continuous. No gate, no break in the fence. At each corner, the 2 sides were wired together tightly. "Weird," Marcus said. Then he got bored with it and went to make coffee. I stared at the fence for a bit longer. I couldn't shake the feeling that it hadn't been there yesterday. I tried to remember when we'd parked, when we'd been sitting outside, and I couldn't picture it. But memory is tricky. You think you remember things clearly, but you don't always. We spent the day exploring. Drove the Jeep we'd towed behind the RV down to the marina. Took some photos. Bought ice cream. Normal vacation stuff. When we got back to the campsite around 4, the fence was still there. Of course it was. Where else would it be? But now I couldn't stop looking at it. Every time I was outside, my eyes would drift over to it. Marcus noticed. "It's just a fence, Nat," he said. "Probably some BLM thing, land management." "With no signs?" "Government's weird." That night, we made burgers on the portable grill. The nearest RV to us, the one that had been a couple 100 yards away, was gone. I hadn't noticed them leave. Now, the next closest one was even farther, barely visible in the twilight. We went to bed around 10. I had trouble sleeping. The RV was comfortable enough, but I kept thinking about the fence. In my half-asleep state, I kept imagining it closer to us, like it had moved, which was stupid. Fences don't move. I woke up suddenly at 3:14 in the morning. I know the exact time because I looked at my phone. Marcus was snoring softly beside me. I felt like I'd heard something, but I couldn't remember what. I lay there for a while, listening. The wind was blowing outside, making a low whistling sound against the RV. Nothing else. Then I heard footsteps. Outside. On the sand. I held my breath. The footsteps were slow, crunching. They circled the RV once, then stopped near the door. I waited for a knock. None came. After a minute, the footsteps moved away. I shook Marcus awake. "Someone's outside." He grunted, barely conscious. "What?" "There's someone walking around outside." He sat up, listened. Silence. "I don't hear anything." They were just here. They walked around the RV. Marcus checked his phone, groaned. "It's 3 in the morning. Probably just someone going to the bathroom." "There are no bathrooms here. It's dispersed camping." Then they were going to the bathroom. He lay back down. "It's fine. Go to sleep." I didn't go to sleep. I lay there until the sky started getting light, around 6. When I finally dozed off, I slept until 9, which was late for me. When I got up, Marcus was already outside. I made coffee and joined him. He was standing by the fence again. "Check this out," he said when I walked over. The fence was closer to us. I'm not kidding. It wasn't 50 yards away anymore. It was maybe 30 yards. Still the same size, still the same shape. A perfect square with no entrance. But it had moved. Or we had moved. Or something. Did you move the RV last night? I asked. What? No. Why would I move the RV? The fence is closer. He looked at me, then at the fence, then back at our RV. I think our perspective is just off. Hard to judge distances out here. But I knew it was closer. I'd been staring at that fence for 2 days. I knew how far away it had been. We had a fight about it. Not a big one, but Marcus got annoyed that I kept insisting the fence had moved. He said I was being paranoid. I said he wasn't paying attention. Eventually, we dropped it and had breakfast. Around noon, we decided to drive into Page, the nearest town, to get groceries. I wanted to get away from the beach for a bit. The drive was about 20 minutes. The town was small but had a decent grocery store. We bought food, more wine, some firewood, even though we weren't supposed to have fires on the beach. When we got back, there was another RV parked near us. Much closer than anyone had been so far, maybe 75 yards away. It was a fifth wheel, bigger than ours, with Arizona plates. I didn't see anyone outside. The fence was still there. I tried not to look at it, but I couldn't help myself. It didn't look any closer, but I took a photo of it on my phone just to have a reference point. That evening, the people from the other RV came over. A couple in their 60s, Jim and Carol from Tucson. They were friendly, said they'd been camping all over the Southwest for years. Jim offered us beers, and we sat outside talking as the sun went down. "You folks see that fence?" Jim asked, pointing. My heart jumped. "Yeah. You know what it's for?" He shook his head. "Nope. Wasn't there yesterday when we drove by. Thought maybe you'd put it up." "It's not ours," Marcus said. "Strangest thing," Carol said. "No gate. How'd they even build it?" We all stared at it for a while. In the growing darkness, it looked more solid somehow, more present. "Probably BLM," Jim said eventually, echoing what Marcus had suggested. "They do weird stuff out here sometimes." We finished our beers and they went back to their RV. Marcus and I sat outside a bit longer. The wind had died down completely. The night was silent except for the occasional lap of water against the shore. "You think they're right?" I asked. "About it not being there yesterday?" Marcus didn't answer right away. "I don't know. Maybe we all just didn't notice it." But I could tell he didn't believe that anymore. We went to bed around 11. I fell asleep faster than I expected, exhausted from being anxious all day. I didn't dream, or if I did, I don't remember. I woke up at 3:14 again, exact same time. Marcus was still asleep. I lay there in the dark, listening. After a few minutes, I heard the footsteps again. Outside. Slow and deliberate. They circled the RV twice this time, then stopped near the back. I got up as quietly as I could and moved to the small window at the back of the RV. I couldn't see anything. Just darkness. The footsteps started again, moving away from the RV, toward the lake. I watched for a long time. I don't know what I was expecting to see. Eventually, I went back to bed. In the morning, I checked the photo I'd taken of the fence yesterday. Then I went outside and looked at the fence now. It was definitely closer, at least 10 feet closer. I showed Marcus the photo. He stared at it for a long time. "This is from yesterday?" "Yes. And you didn't move forward to take it or anything?" "No, I was standing right here." I pointed to the spot where I'd been standing by the RV. He walked over to the fence. I followed him. He examined the posts, the way they were planted in the sand. They looked permanent. "You couldn't just pick this thing up and move it." "Maybe we rolled forward in the night," he said. "Like, the RV moved somehow." I checked our parking blocks. They were still in place under the tires. The RV hadn't moved. Jim came over around 10. He looked shaken. "You folks hear anything last night?" he asked. "Like what?" Marcus said. "Carol swears she heard someone walking around our rig around 3 in the morning. I didn't hear it, but it scared her pretty good. She wants to leave today." "I heard it too," I said. "Same time, 3 in the morning, someone walking around our RV. Jim's face went pale. Did you see who it was? No. We all looked at each other. Then Jim looked at the fence. That thing's closer, he said. I swear to God it's closer than it was last night. Marcus started to say something, then stopped. We all knew it was closer. There was no point pretending otherwise. We're packing up, Jim said. This place doesn't feel right. You folks should consider leaving too. Yeah, Marcus said. We probably will. Jim went back to his RV. We could hear them moving around inside, starting to disconnect. Marcus and I went back inside ours. Should we go? I asked. Marcus sat on the small couch, rubbing his face. Yeah, this is weird. I don't like it. We started packing up. It took us about an hour to get everything disconnected and stowed. We were almost done when I realized I hadn't seen Jim and Carol's RV leave. I looked out the window. It was still there. They're still here, I said to Marcus. He looked. Maybe they had trouble with something. We finished our packing, and Marcus went outside to do a final check. I was inside organizing the last few things when I heard him call my name. His voice was strange, tight. I went outside. He was standing between our RV and Jim and Carol's, staring at something. The fence had moved again. It was maybe 15 yards from our RV now, but that wasn't what Marcus was staring at. Jim and Carol's RV was inside the fence. I don't know how else to describe it. The fence formed a square around their RV. Not around the whole vehicle. The front end was sticking out through where the fence should have been, but wasn't. It was like the fence had grown around it, or formed around it, but impossibly. The chain link was continuous. There was no break where the RV intersected it. What the fuck? Marcus said quietly. We walked closer. The fence was real, solid. But Jim and Carol's RV was somehow partially inside it and partially outside it. The door to their RV was on the side that was inside the fence. Jim, Marcus called. Carol. No answer. We walked around the fence, looking for any kind of opening, any way to get closer to their RV. There wasn't one. The fence was complete. Marcus tried his phone. No signal. We'd had spotty service since we'd arrived, but now there was nothing. Not even one bar. We need to get out of here, I said. Marcus nodded. We walked quickly back to our RV. He got in the driver's seat, turned the key. Nothing happened. He tried again. The engine didn't even turn over. No clicking, no sound at all. It was like the battery was completely dead. But that didn't make sense. We'd been running the generator last night. Everything had been fine. Try the Jeep, I said. We went to the Jeep we'd been towing. Same thing. Marcus turned the key and nothing happened. Dead. We stood there between the two vehicles, both of us breathing hard. We can walk out, Marcus said. It's only 20 minutes to the main road. We can get help. What about Jim and Carol? We'll get help and come back. We went back into the RV to grab some water and our phones, even though they didn't have service. When we came back out, we both stopped. The fence was closer. It was maybe 10 yards away now. And it was longer. It didn't form a square anymore. It was rectangular, stretching out in front of us, between us and the road. That's not possible, Marcus said. We started walking along the fence line, trying to find an end to it. We walked for 10 minutes. The fence just kept going. Always the same height, always the same chain link pattern. No gate, no break. Just fence. We turned around and walked back the other way. Same thing. The fence extended in both directions as far as we could see. We can climb it, I said. Marcus looked at me. What? The fence. It's only 6 feet tall. We can climb over it. He stared at the fence, then nodded. We walked up to it. Marcus went first. He grabbed the chain link and started pulling himself up. He got about 3 feet up and then made a weird sound. His hands opened and he fell back onto the sand. Marcus! He was gasping, holding his hands. They were red, like they'd been burned, but the fence looked normal. Just old chain link. It shocked me, he said. Like electricity, but worse. It felt like, I don't know, like my hands were being pulled into it. I touched the fence lightly with one finger. The metal was cold, normal, but when I tried to push harder to grab it, I felt what Marcus had described. Not exactly electricity, but something that made my hand want to jerk away, made my muscles spasm. We backed away from the fence. "What is this?" I asked. My voice was shaking. Marcus didn't answer. He was looking at Jim and Carol's RV. The front end, which had been sticking out through the fence, was now fully inside. The fence surrounded the entire RV now. We walked around to where we could see their door. I tried calling out again. "Jim, Carol, can you hear us?" The door opened. Carol stepped out. She looked normal at first. Same clothes she'd been wearing yesterday, but something was wrong with her face. It took me a second to figure out what it was. She wasn't blinking and she was smiling, not a natural smile, too wide. "Carol?" Marcus called. She turned to look at us. The smile didn't change. She didn't say anything. Just stood there in the doorway of the RV staring at us with that wrong smile. "Are you okay?" I asked. She tilted her head to one side. The movement was too fast, too jerky, like a bird. "Where's Jim?" Marcus asked. Carol's smile got wider. That shouldn't have been possible, but it did. The corners of her mouth were stretching up toward her ears now. It must have hurt. But she didn't seem to notice. Then she stepped back into the RV and closed the door. "Jesus Christ," Marcus said. We walked back to our RV quickly. I kept looking over my shoulder, expecting to see the fence closer again, but it stayed where it was, for now. Inside the RV, we tried to figure out what to do. Marcus wanted to try the vehicles again. I said we should wait, think. We were both terrified, trying not to show it to each other. Around 2 in the afternoon, Marcus looked out the window and swore. The fence was moving, not quickly, but steadily, growing toward us. We could see it if we watched carefully, the posts sliding through the sand, the chain link extending. "We have to leave," I said. "Now, on foot. The fence is in the way. Then we go around it. Or through it. Or something. We can't just sit here and wait for it to..." I didn't finish. We both knew what would happen. The fence would reach us, surround us like it had surrounded Jim and Carol's RV. And then... what? Would we become like Carol? We grabbed what we could: water, phones, a first aid kit. We left the RV and started walking parallel to the fence, looking for an end. The sand was hot and soft, hard to walk in. After 20 minutes, we still hadn't found a break in the fence. And when we looked back, the fence had moved. It was curving now, starting to encircle us. "Run," Marcus said. We ran. The sand made it hard. My legs were burning after 5 minutes, but we kept going, angling away from the fence. When we stopped to catch our breath, the fence was still there, always in our peripheral vision, always moving. We tried for 2 hours. No matter which direction we went, the fence was there. It was like it was growing with us, adjusting to our movements. And every time we looked back, our RV was a little farther away. Finally, exhausted, we stopped. The sun was getting low. In a few hours, it would be dark. "What do we do?" I asked. Marcus didn't answer. He was looking past me, back toward where our RV had been. I turned around. The RV was inside the fence now, just like Jim and Carol's, fully enclosed. "No," I said. We started running toward it, even though that didn't make sense, but I guess we thought if we could get back to the RV, we'd be safe somehow. Or at least we'd have shelter. We didn't make it. The fence cut us off. No matter how we tried to angle toward the RV, the fence was always between us and it. Finally, we gave up and just stood there, breathing hard, watching the sunset. That's when we heard the sound. It was coming from inside the fence, from our RV. A knocking sound. Someone was knocking on the door from the inside. Then the door opened and I stepped out. I mean, someone who looked exactly like me stepped out. Same height, same clothes. The clothes I was wearing right now. She looked at us and smiled. Not like Carol's smile. A normal smile. My smile. "Hi," she said. Her voice was my voice. I couldn't speak. Marcus grabbed my arm, holding me back, though I wasn't trying to move forward. "You should come inside," the other me said. "It's getting dark. You'll want to be inside when it gets dark." "Who are you?" Marcus asked. The other me tilted her head. "I'm Natalie. Who are you?" "What's going on?" I managed to ask. "What is this place?" "It's Lake Powell," she said. "You came here for your anniversary, remember?" She gestured at the fence around the RV. "This is your spot. You picked it, don't you remember?" "That's not our spot," Marcus said. "Our spot is out there, outside the fence." The other me looked confused. "There's no outside. There's just here. Come on, you must be tired. Come inside and rest." She went back into the RV and left the door open. We could see inside. It looked normal, like our RV. But something about it was wrong. The proportions were off somehow, or the light was strange. I couldn't quite identify what it was. "We're not going in there," Marcus said quietly. "No," I agreed. We backed away from the fence. The other me appeared in the doorway again. "You need to come inside," she said. Her voice was firmer now, still mine, but with an edge to it. "You can't stay out there, not at night." "Why not?" Marcus asked. She didn't answer. She just stared at us, and then slowly her smile widened, like Carol's had, stretching. Her eyes didn't blink. We ran. I don't know how long we ran. It felt like hours, but it might have only been 30 minutes. The sky went from orange to purple to black. We didn't have flashlights. The moon was only a sliver, not enough to see by. We slowed to a walk, holding hands so we wouldn't lose each other. The stars were wrong. I noticed it after a while. I don't know much about astronomy, but I know the Big Dipper. I know Orion. The stars above us weren't in any pattern I recognized. They seemed brighter, closer, and they were moving. Slowly, but definitely moving. "Marcus," I whispered. "Look at the stars." He looked up. "What the fuck is happening?" We kept walking. At some point, I realized I couldn't hear the lake anymore. We'd been on a beach near water, but now there was no sound of waves, no smell of water. Just silence and sand. Then we saw a light ahead. A campfire. We approached carefully. There was someone sitting by the fire. A man. He had his back to us. "Hello?" Marcus called out. The man turned around. It was Jim. He looked normal. No weird smile. No strange movements. Just Jim, looking tired and scared. "Jim," I said. "Are you okay? Where's Carol?" "She's..." He trailed off, looking at the fire. "She's not herself anymore." We sat down across from him. The fire was warm. Real. I wanted to believe this was real. "What is this place?" Marcus asked. "I don't know," Jim said. "Carol and I, we woke up inside that fence. We tried to get out, but we couldn't. Then Carol went outside to look around, and when she came back..." He shook his head. "She wasn't Carol anymore. She looked like Carol, but she wasn't." "We saw her," I said. "She came to the door." "That thing isn't my wife," Jim said. His voice cracked. "I don't know what it is." We sat in silence for a moment. The fire crackled. "Did you see the other one?" Jim asked. "Other one?" "The other you," he said, looking at me. "She came by earlier. Said she was looking for Marcus. Said you two should come back to your RV." My blood went cold. "When?" "Maybe an hour ago. She went that way." He pointed into the darkness. "We need to leave," Marcus said. "We need to get out of here." "There's no out," Jim said flatly. "I've been walking for hours. The fence is everywhere, and even if you get away from it, there's nothing beyond it. Just sand. Forever." "That can't be true," I said. Jim looked at me. "Can it?" We stayed by the fire for a while longer. Jim shared some water he had. We tried to make a plan, but there was no plan to make. We were trapped in a place that didn't follow normal rules. A place where fences moved and closed around you, where things that looked like people but weren't waited inside RVs that shouldn't exist. Around midnight, at least, I think it was midnight, my phone was dead. We heard footsteps. All three of us froze. The footsteps circled the campfire just beyond the reach of the light. Slow and steady, crunching in the sand. "Who's there?" Marcus called. No answer. Just the footsteps, circling. Then a voice. My voice. "Natalie? Marcus? Is that you?" The other me stepped into the firelight. She looked concerned. "I've been looking everywhere for you. Why did you leave the RV? It's not safe out here." "Stay back," as Marcus said. She looked hurt. "Marcus, it's me. It's Natalie. Don't you recognize me?" "You're not Natalie," he said. "Natalie is right here." The other me looked at me. Really looked at me. Her expression was strange, studying. "No," she said slowly. "I'm Natalie. That's something else. Something that got in." "That doesn't make sense," I said. My voice was shaking. "Doesn't it?" She took a step closer. "Think about it. When did you start noticing the fence? When did things start getting strange? Right after you arrived here? Right after something arrived here?" "Stop," Marcus said. But she kept talking, her eyes fixed on me. "You brought it with you. You let it in. And now it's pretending to be you, trying to take your place. Trying to take our place." "She's lying," I said. But my voice sounded uncertain even to myself. "Am I?" The other me smiled. "How do you know? How do you know you're really Natalie Clark? How do you know your memories are real?" I couldn't answer. Because suddenly I wasn't sure. My memories felt thin, like I was watching them from a distance. Like they belonged to someone else. "Natalie," Marcus said, taking my hand. "Don't listen to her. I know you're you. I know you." But did he? How could he know? How could anyone know anything in this place? The other me shrugged. "It doesn't matter. You'll understand soon enough. When the fence closes completely. When there's no separation anymore between inside and outside." She looked at Jim. "Your wife understands now. She's at peace." "Fuck you," Jim said. The other me's expression didn't change. She just turned and walked back into the darkness. We heard her footsteps moving away. We sat by the fire until it started to die down. Jim didn't have any more wood. As the flames got smaller, the darkness pressed in around us. The stars continued their slow rotation overhead, in patterns that made no sense. "I'm sorry," Jim said quietly. "I should have warned you. When I first saw that fence, I should have told you to leave immediately." "It wouldn't have mattered," Marcus said. "I don't think we could have left even then." "Maybe." Jim stared at the dying fire. "Or maybe we were already inside it. Maybe we've been inside it the whole time and we just didn't know." I thought about that. About the moment we'd first arrived at Lake Powell. How empty the beach had seemed. How the other RVs had disappeared. How we'd never seen anyone except Jim and Carol. How the fence had appeared from nowhere. "When did you notice the fence?" I asked Jim. He thought about it. "Second morning, right after we got here. I went out to check our tanks and there it was." "Same as us," I said. "What if it's been there all along?" Marcus said quietly. "What if we just couldn't see it until it wanted us to see it?" None of us had an answer to that. The fire went out. We sat in darkness. After a while, Jim spoke again. "I'm going back," he said. "Back where?" Marcus asked. "To the RV, to Carol. Even if she's not herself anymore, she's still. I can't just leave her." He stood up. "You folks should probably do the same. Go back to your RV. It's the only shelter we have. And when morning comes, if morning comes, maybe things will make more sense." "Things aren't going to make sense," I said. "No," Jim agreed. "Probably not. But we can't just sit out here forever." He walked off into the darkness. We listened to his footsteps fade away. Marcus and I sat in silence for a long time. "What do we do?" I asked finally. "I don't know. Do you think Jim's right? Should we go back?" Marcus didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was very quiet. "I don't think it matters what we do. I think this is just what happens here. The fence closes around you. You go inside, and then you become whatever those things are. So we just give up?" I didn't say that. We sat a while longer. I tried to think of a plan. Any plan. But my mind felt fuzzy. Like I was forgetting something important. Like parts of me were already dissolving, becoming less real. "Marcus," I said, "tell me something. Something only the real me would know." He thought for a moment. "You have a scar on your left ankle from when you fell off your bike when you were 7. You're allergic to shellfish, but you eat it anyway because you think it's worth it. You cry during Disney movies, but not during horror movies. Your middle name is Rose, after your grandmother." I checked my ankle. There was a scar there. I knew about the shellfish allergy. The rest seemed right too. But how could I be sure? If this place could create things that looked like people, could it also create false memories? Could it make me believe I was someone I wasn't? "Do you believe me?" I asked. "That I'm really me?" Marcus looked at me for a long time. In the starlight, I couldn't read his expression. "Yes," he said finally. "I believe you." But I could tell he wasn't entirely sure, and I didn't blame him, because I wasn't entirely sure either. We walked for a while after that, not toward the RV, not toward anything in particular, just walking to keep moving, to feel like we were doing something. The sand all looked the same. The stars continued their strange rotation overhead. At some point, I don't know when, we saw another light in the distance, another campfire. We walked toward it even though we knew it was probably a trap, probably another thing that wasn't what it seemed. When we got close enough, we saw someone sitting by the fire, a woman. She had her back to us. "Hello?" I called out. She turned around. It was Carol. But not the Carol we'd seen earlier. This Carol looked normal, scared. "Jim?" she said, squinting at us. "Is that you?" "It's Marcus and Natalie," Marcus said carefully. "We met you yesterday, remember? We're camped near you." "I don't." She looked confused. "I'm sorry, I don't remember you. I don't remember anything after we set up camp. I woke up out here alone and I don't know where Jim is." Marcus and I exchanged glances. "Where's your RV?" I asked. "I don't know. I can't find it. I've been walking for hours." She started crying. "Something's wrong with this place. The fence, did you see the fence? It's everywhere. I can't get out." I sat down next to her. "We know. We're trapped too." "Where's my husband?" she asked. "Where's Jim?" I didn't know how to answer. Was this the real Carol, and the other one, the one with the wrong smile, was the fake? Or was this another trick? "We saw him earlier," Marcus said. "He's looking for you." "I need to find him," Carol said, standing up. "I need to—" She stopped, staring past us into the darkness. "What is that?" We turned around. At first I didn't see anything. Then I realized the darkness itself was moving. A massive shadow, darker than the night around it, was flowing across the sand toward us. It had no real shape, just a writhing, shifting presence. "Run," Marcus said. We ran. Carol ran with us. Behind us I could hear something, not footsteps, but a sound like wind or waves or breathing. The darkness was following us. We ran until my lungs burned, until my legs felt like they would give out. When we finally stopped, the darkness had fallen back. But it was still there, waiting. "What was that?" Carol gasped. "I don't know," I said. We kept moving, slower now. Carol stayed with us. She seemed real. Scared, confused, human, but so had the other version of her at first. So had the other version of me. After a while, we saw lights ahead. Multiple lights, a lot of them. We approached carefully. As we got closer, I realized what we were seeing. It was a camp. Dozens of RVs. all arranged in neat rows. All the lights were on inside them. Through the windows, we could see people moving around. Normal people, doing normal things, cooking, reading, watching TV. Thank God, Carol said. Other people, we can get help. But something felt wrong about it. The scene was too perfect, too normal. We walked between the rows of RVs. I looked in the windows as we passed. The people inside weren't just going about their business. They were repeating the same actions over and over. A man stirring a pot on a stove, the same circular motion. A woman reading a book, her eyes moving back and forth across the same page without turning it. A child playing with blocks, stacking and unstacking them in the exact same order. "Don't," Marcus said quietly, grabbing my arm. But Carol was already knocking on one of the RV doors. "Hello? We need help." The door opened. A man stood there, smiling. His smile was too wide. "Hello," he said cheerfully. "Welcome. Are you here for the camping?" "We need help," Carol said. "We're lost. Do you have a phone that works? Can you call someone?" "Of course," the man said. His smile never changed. "Come inside. We have everything you need." Carol started to step toward the RV. Marcus grabbed her. "Don't go in there," he said. "Why not?" Carol asked. "He's offering to help." "He's not real," Marcus said. The man's smile widened. "Of course I'm real. Come inside and see. Everyone's inside. Everyone's happy here." More doors were opening now. More people stepping out. All of them smiling. All of them watching us. "We need to go," I said. We backed away from the camp. The people didn't follow us, but they watched us leave, their smiles never changing, their eyes never blinking. When we were far enough away that we couldn't see the lights anymore, Carol started crying again. "I just want to go home," she said. "I just want to find Jim and go home." "We all do," I said. We walked through the darkness for what felt like hours. At some point, Carol stopped crying. She got very quiet. When I looked at her, her expression had changed, become blank. "Carol?" I said. She didn't respond. She just kept walking, her face empty. "Carol, are you okay?" She turned to look at me and smiled. It was the wrong smile, the too wide smile. Marcus saw it too. Fuck. Not her too. Carol, or the thing that had been Carol, tilted her head. "It's okay," she said. "It doesn't hurt. You just have to stop fighting it. It's easier that way." "Stay away from us," Marcus said. "Why? I'm still Carol. I'm just better now. I understand things now. You will too, soon, when you go inside." "We're not going inside," I said. "Yes, you will," Carol said. "Everyone goes inside eventually. The fence makes sure of that." She turned and walked away into the darkness. We didn't try to stop her. Marcus and I stood alone in the emptiness. "What do we do?" I asked. I'd asked it so many times now. There was still no answer. "I don't know," Marcus said. "I don't..." He stopped, staring at something behind me. I turned around. The fence was there. Close. Maybe 10 feet away. "It's been following us," Marcus said. "The whole time." He was right. No matter where we'd gone, no matter how far we'd walked, the fence had been moving with us, keeping pace, and now it was closing in. We could see our RV through the fence, and Jim and Carol's RV, and in the distance, other RVs, all of them inside the fence now, all of them with lights on in the windows. "We can't run from it," I said. "Can we?" "No," Marcus said quietly. "I don't think we can." We stood there, watching the fence move closer inch by inch, steady and patient. "If we go in," Marcus said, "we become like them, like Carol, like the other you." "Yes, but if we don't go in..." "What? We just stand out here forever, in the dark?" He didn't answer. The fence was 5 feet away now, 3 feet. We could touch it if we wanted to, but we didn't want to. "I'm sorry," Marcus said. For what? For bringing you here. This was my idea, the anniversary trip, the RV. It's not your fault. How could you have known? The fence was a foot away now. We had nowhere left to go. Natalie, Marcus said, I love you, the real you, not whatever's waiting in there. You. I need you to know that. I know, I said. I love you too. The fence touched us. For a moment, nothing happened. Then I felt it, that pulling sensation. Not painful exactly, just a pressure, a force, like gravity, but pulling inward instead of down, pulling me towards something I couldn't see. I closed my eyes. When I opened them again, I was standing in the doorway of our RV. Marcus was beside me. We were inside the fence. I looked down at my hands. They looked normal. I felt normal. But was I? Are we? Marcus started to say, then stopped. Were we ourselves? Or were we the things now? The ones that smiled too wide and didn't blink? I walked down the steps and onto the sand. It felt real. Everything felt real. The night was dark, but I could see the stars overhead. They were in normal patterns now. Orion, the Big Dipper, everything where it should be. I looked around. There was no fence, just the open beach, the lake, the distant rock formations. Everything normal. Marcus came up beside me. Where is it? Where did it go? I don't know. We walked around the RV, no fence. We walked over to where Jim and Carol's RV had been. It was gone. Just empty sand. Did we imagine it? Marcus asked. Was it some kind of mass hallucination? Carbon monoxide or something? I don't know, I said again. We went back inside the RV. Everything was where we'd left it. Our phones were on the counter. I picked mine up. It turned on. Full battery. Service. It was 8:30 in the morning, 3 days after we'd first arrived. 3 days, Marcus said, looking at his phone. We were out there for 3 days. But it hadn't felt like 3 days. It had felt like one very long night. We sat in the RV in silence for a long time. Finally, Marcus said we should leave. I agreed. We didn't bother packing everything up properly. We just got everything inside, disconnected the hookups, and left. The drive back to Phoenix was quiet. We didn't talk about what had happened. When we got home, we returned the RV, unpacked, went back to our normal lives. But things aren't normal. I know they're not. Sometimes I catch Marcus looking at me strangely, like he's trying to figure out if I'm really me. And I don't blame him because I do the same thing. I look at him and I try to remember everything about him, every detail, to make sure he's still Marcus and not something else. And sometimes, more and more often lately, I'm not sure. Yesterday I was looking in the mirror and I smiled, and for just a second the smile looked wrong. Too wide. And I didn't blink for a full minute without meaning to. I called Jim's number. It's disconnected. I looked up their address, drove by their house. It's for sale. The neighbors said they moved months ago, before we even went to Lake Powell. I don't know what we brought back with us from that place or what we left behind, or if we ever really left at all. Sometimes at night, I hear footsteps outside, slow and steady, circling the house. When I look out the window, there's nothing there, but I can hear them. And sometimes when Marcus is asleep and I'm lying awake, I think about the fence, how it moved, how it closed around us, how it was always there even when we couldn't see it. I think it's still there. I think we're still inside it. And I think one morning I'm going to wake up and look in the mirror, and the thing looking back at me will smile, and it will be the wrong smile, and I'll know. I'll know that I'm not Natalie Clark anymore, that maybe I never was. My name is Daniel Foster. This happened last November at an RV campground in Ocala National Forest, Florida. I'm writing this down because I need to put it somewhere, and because I'm not sure what else to do with it. People keep asking me what happened to Jessica, and I don't know how to answer that question anymore. We'd been planning the trip for months. Jessica had just finished her master's thesis in ecology, and I'd wrapped up a project at the architecture firm where I work. We needed a break, She found this RV rental place in Orlando, and we drove the thing to Ocala on a Thursday afternoon. The plan was to stay for 5 days, do some hiking, maybe see some springs. Nothing ambitious. The campground was called Juniper Springs RV Resort, though resort was generous. It was basically a cleared area in the forest with electrical hookups and a communal bathroom building. There were maybe 20 sites total, and when we pulled in around 4 in the afternoon, only 3 other RVs were there. It was off-season, the woman at the office explained. Most people came in winter or spring. Jessica liked that it was quiet. She'd been stressed about her thesis defense, and the idea of having the place mostly to ourselves appealed to her. I remember she smiled when we parked and she saw how thick the tree cover was. "Perfect," she said. We spent that first evening setting up. The RV was bigger than either of us were used to, and it took some figuring out. Jessica made pasta on the little stove while I dealt with the water hookup. We ate outside at the picnic table that came with our site. It got dark fast under all those trees. Around 9, Jessica went inside to call her mom. She liked to check in when we traveled. I stayed outside cleaning up dinner. That's when I noticed the other campers. There was an older couple 2 sites down, and a lone guy in a small trailer across the way. Neither group had come over to say hello, which was fine with me. I'm not great at small talk with strangers. Jessica came back out looking annoyed. "No signal," she said, holding up her phone. "Can you believe that? I'm showing 1 bar, but nothing goes through." I checked mine. Same thing. 1 bar. But when I tried to load anything, it just spun. The office lady mentioned something about spotty service, I said. Something about the canopy. "Great." Jessica sat down next to me. "Well, I guess that's part of unplugging, right?" We stayed up talking for another hour, then went to bed. The RV had a queen bed in the back that folded down. It was comfortable enough. I fell asleep listening to the wind in the trees and Jessica's breathing next to me. I woke up around 3 in the morning to use the bathroom. The RV's toilet was tiny and loud, and I tried to be quiet so I wouldn't wake Jessica. When I came back to bed, I noticed my phone was lit up on the nightstand. A missed call notification. I picked it up. The call had come in at 2:47 a.m. No caller ID, just a number I didn't recognize. Florida area code, though. I checked to see if they'd left a voicemail, but there was nothing. Jessica stirred. "Everything okay?" "Yeah, go back to sleep." I put the phone down and got back into bed, but I had trouble falling asleep again. Something about getting a call in the middle of the night in a place with barely any signal seemed off. I lay there for maybe an hour before I finally drifted off. The next morning, Friday, we hiked one of the trails near the campground. It was supposed to be a 5-mile loop through pine flatwoods and hammock. Jessica had downloaded the trail map before we lost signal, so we had it saved on her phone. The trail was nice. Empty. We saw a few deer and heard a lot of birds. Jessica was in a good mood, pointing out different plant species and talking about the ecosystem. This was her thing. She could identify trees and shrubs I'd never even noticed before. About 3 miles in, we took a break by a small creek. Jessica sat on a log while I refilled our water bottles with the filter. That's when my phone rang. The sound was jarring out there. We'd both left our phones on for emergencies, but neither of us expected them to work. I pulled mine out of my pocket. Same unknown number from the night before. "Hello?" Nothing. Just static and maybe something else. A faint sound I couldn't place. "Hello?" I said again. Then I heard it. My own voice, distant and distorted, saying hello. I pulled the phone away from my ear and stared at it. "What?" Jessica asked. "Who is it?" "I don't know." I put it back to my ear, but the call had dropped. The screen showed I'd been connected for 8 seconds. "Wrong number?" Jessica asked. "Maybe. It was weird, though, I heard. I don't know. Static." We finished our water break and kept hiking. I tried not to think about the call, but it nagged at me. The thing about hearing my own voice, I told myself I'd imagined it. Maybe it was an echo, some kind of delay on the line. That happens sometimes with bad connections. We got back to the campground around 2. The older couple's RV was gone, and there was a new vehicle in their spot, a white pickup truck with a camper shell. I didn't see anyone around it. Jessica wanted to try the shower in the communal bathroom, so I waited by the RV and read for a while. She came back 20 minutes later looking frustrated. "The water's freezing," she said, "and the whole place is disgusting. I think I'll just wait until we get to a hotel or something." "We're here for 4 more days," I pointed out. "I know, I'll manage." That evening, we drove into the nearest town, Ocala itself, to get groceries and find somewhere with Wi-Fi so Jessica could email her advisor. We found a coffee shop that was open until 8. Jessica spent an hour on her laptop while I walked around town. There wasn't much to see. A few restaurants, a hardware store, some antique shops that were already closed. When I got back to the coffee shop, Jessica was closing her computer. "Done?" "For now. Dr. Morrison wants me to add another chapter on the impact studies, but I'll deal with that when we get back." We grabbed dinner at a diner, then headed back to the campground. It was fully dark by the time we arrived, and I had to use the headlights to navigate back to our site. As we pulled in, I saw someone standing by our picnic table. It was the guy from the trailer across the way. He was probably in his 50s, heavy, with a gray beard. He stepped back when our headlights hit him, holding up one hand to shield his eyes. I parked and got out. "Can we help you?" "Sorry," the guy said. He had a deep voice, sort of gravelly. "Didn't mean to startle you folks. I was just wondering if you had a spare lighter." "Mine's out of fluid." Jessica stayed in the RV while I dug through the storage compartment for the emergency kit. We had some waterproof matches in there. I handed them to him. "Keep 'em," I said. "Appreciate it." He didn't leave right away, just stood there looking at our RV. "Nice rig." "It's a rental." "Ah." He nodded. "How long you folks staying?" "Until Tuesday." "That's good. Good time to be out here." Quiet. There was something about the way he said it that made me uncomfortable, but I couldn't pinpoint what. Jessica opened the RV door. "Daniel, you coming?" "Yeah." I looked back at the guy. "Have a good night." "You too." He walked back toward his trailer, and I noticed he was limping slightly. Inside, Jessica was setting up the bed. "What did he want?" "Lighter. Seemed okay." "You gave him one?" "Matches from the emergency kit." She frowned. "I don't like him just hanging around our site. He was probably just passing by and saw we were back." Still, I didn't argue. The truth was I didn't like it either, but I wasn't going to say that and make her more anxious. We watched a movie on Jessica's laptop. She'd downloaded a few before we left, and went to bed around 11. I set my phone on the nightstand again, still showing that single useless bar of signal. At 2:47 a.m. it rang. I jolted awake and grabbed it before the second ring could wake Jessica. Same number as before. I answered it without thinking. "Hello?" The static was louder this time, and underneath it I heard my voice again, clearer now. It was saying something, but I couldn't make out the words. It sounded urgent. "Who is this?" I asked. The static cut out abruptly, and for a moment I heard breathing. Then my voice came through perfectly clear. "Don't let her go into the woods alone." The call ended. I sat there in the dark, holding the phone. My hand was shaking. Jessica rolled over. "Was that your phone?" "Yeah, wrong number again." "Same one?" "I think so." "You should block it." "Yeah." I tried, but the option wasn't available. When I looked at the call log, the number wasn't even there. The log showed no incoming calls after midnight. I didn't sleep after that. I lay there until the sky started to lighten around 6:30, then got up and made coffee in the RV's little machine. Jessica woke up an hour later. "You look terrible," she said. "Didn't sleep well." "Because of the call?" I considered telling her what I'd heard, but it seemed insane in the daylight. "Yeah, just kept thinking about it." We spent Saturday morning at the campground. Jessica wanted to go hiking again, but I convinced her to just relax for a day. We sat outside reading, and I kept watching the guy's trailer across the way. I never saw him come out. Around noon, A park ranger truck drove through the campground. It stopped at each site briefly, and when it got to ours, a woman in uniform got out. "Afternoon," she said. "Just doing a check-in. Everything okay with you folks?" "Fine," Jessica said. "Is something wrong?" No, just routine." The ranger looked around our site. "You haven't had any issues? Nobody bothering you?" "No," I said. "Why?" "We had a complaint from one of the other campers. Said someone's been walking around the sites at night. Probably nothing, but we like to stay on top of these things." "We haven't seen anything," Jessica said. The ranger nodded. "Good. Well, if you do notice anything unusual, there's a number posted at the office. Don't hesitate to call." After she left, Jessica looked at me. "That's creepy." "Yeah." "Do you think it's that guy? The one who wanted matches?" "I don't know." But I was thinking about the call. Don't let her go into the woods alone. We decided to drive to one of the nearby springs that afternoon. Silver Glen Springs was about 20 minutes away, and it gave us something to do besides sit around feeling uneasy. The spring was beautiful, crystal clear water, cool even though it was November. Jessica wanted to swim, but the water was 68 degrees and neither of us had brought proper swimsuits. We stayed for a couple of hours, then headed back to the campground. It was starting to get dark when we arrived, and I noticed two things immediately. The guy's trailer was gone, and there was a new RV parked in the site next to ours. "Well, at least he's gone," Jessica said, meaning the bearded guy. The new RV was much nicer than ours, one of those expensive Class A motorhomes. I could see lights on inside, but no one came out to say hello. That night we made steaks on the little propane grill outside. Jessica had a glass of wine with dinner, and she seemed more relaxed than she'd been since we arrived. We talked about her thesis, about work, about where we might want to go next. Around 10, she went inside to get ready for bed. I stayed outside for a few more minutes, cleaning the grill. That's when I heard it, a phone ringing, but not mine. It was coming from the woods, maybe 30 yards from our site. The ringtone was distinctive, the default iPhone sound. It rang 4 times, then stopped. I stood there in the dark, listening. The forest was quiet except for the usual insect sounds. Then the phone rang again, same spot. I grabbed my flashlight from inside the RV without telling Jessica where I was going. I know that was stupid. I didn't think about it at the time. The phone kept ringing as I walked toward the sound. My flashlight beam cut through the trees, catching palmetto fronds and pine trunks. The ringing stopped when I was about 20 feet away, but I kept going. I found it lying on the ground, face up, an iPhone in a blue case. When I picked it up, the screen was still lit. There were no notifications, no missed calls. The time showed 10:34 p.m., which was right. I pressed the home button and it asked for a passcode. I turned the phone over. There was a small crack in the case and something stuck to the back, a sticker from some band I didn't recognize. I was about to take it back to the RV when it started ringing in my hand. No caller ID. I answered it. "Hello?" My voice came through the speaker, loud and panicked. "Daniel, don't trust her. She's not..." The call cut off. The phone went black. I tried to turn it back on, but it was completely dead. No response to any buttons. I walked back to the RV in a daze. Jessica was already in bed. "Where'd you go?" she asked. "Thought I heard something." "And?" "Nothing, just animals." I put the phone I'd found in the storage compartment outside, hidden under some tools. I didn't know why I didn't tell her about it. I just didn't. That night I dreamed I was in the forest. Jessica was ahead of me on a trail and I was trying to catch up to her. But every time I got close, she'd move farther away. She kept looking back at me over her shoulder, but her face was wrong. I couldn't see how exactly. It just was. I woke up at 2:47 a.m. My phone was ringing, but I'd turned it off before bed. I know I did. I grabbed it. The screen was dark, but it was vibrating and making the ringtone sound. I held down the power button, but nothing happened. The sound kept going. "Daniel." Jessica sat up. "Are you going to answer it?" "It's off," I said. "The phone is off." Then why is it ringing? I don't know. She took it from me and looked at it. As soon as it was in her hands, the ringing stopped. It's not even on, she said, pressing buttons. What the hell? I told you. She handed it back to me and lay down again. This place is fucking with us. Can we just go home? We paid for 5 days, and I don't care, I want to leave. In the morning, I said, let's just get through tonight, and we'll leave in the morning. She didn't answer, but I could tell she wasn't sleeping. Neither was I. At 6:00 a.m. I got up and went outside. The sun was just starting to rise and the campground was quiet. I walked over to the bathroom building and splashed cold water on my face. When I looked in the mirror, I looked worse than I felt. The storage compartment where I'd hidden the phone I found was open when I got back to the RV. The phone was gone. I checked the whole area around our site. Nothing. Jessica came out while I was searching. What are you looking for? Nothing. I thought I left something outside. Daniel, what's going on with you? Nothing, I'm just tired. You're scaring me. I looked at her. She meant it. She was scared of me, not of whatever was happening here. I'm sorry, I said. I just haven't been sleeping well. I know, neither have I, that's why I want to leave. Okay, let's pack up. It took us an hour to disconnect everything and stow all our stuff. The new RV next to us was still dark and quiet. As we were doing the final walk around, I saw someone watching us from the window. It was Jessica. I froze, because Jessica was standing right next to me. The woman in the window had Jessica's face, Jessica's hair. She was wearing a t-shirt I'd never seen before, but everything else was identical. She didn't move, just stared at us. Daniel? Jessica touched my arm. What is it? Do you see her? See who? I looked back at the window. Empty. Nothing. I thought I saw someone. We got in the RV and I started driving. Jessica navigated from her phone, which was showing GPS now that we were leaving the campground. We needed to drop the rental off in Orlando, about an hour and a half away. About 20 minutes down the highway, Jessica's phone rang. She answered it. Hello? She listened for a moment. Hello? She pulled the phone away and looked at the screen. That was weird. What? It sounded like... Never mind. Like what? Like my voice. My voice was on the other end. I kept driving. What else could I do? Daniel, did you hear what I said? Yeah. Doesn't that freak you out? Everything about this trip has freaked me out. She was quiet for a while. Then, did something happen? Something you're not telling me? No. You're lying. Jessica, pull over. What? Pull over. I'm serious. I pulled onto the shoulder. Traffic wasn't heavy, but cars kept passing us at 70 miles per hour, making the RV shake. Tell me what's going on, she said. So I told her. The calls. The voice that sounded like mine. The phone I found in the woods. The warning it gave me. Seeing her in the window of the other RV. She listened to all of it without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. You should have told me, she finally said. I know. I thought I was going crazy. I've been seeing things too. What things? You. I saw you yesterday while you were at the bathroom. You were standing by the tree line just watching our site. But when you came back, you said you'd been in the bathroom the whole time. We looked at each other. We need to call someone, she said. Who? I don't know. The ranger. The police. Someone. But when she tried to dial, her phone showed no signal again. We were back in the dead zone. I started driving. We needed to get to Orlando, return the RV, and get the hell out of Florida. Except Jessica didn't want to go straight to Orlando. I need to check something, she said. Check what? Just turn around, please. Jessica, no. Daniel, turn around. There was something in her voice that I'd never heard before. Not anger, not fear. Something else. Why? I asked. I need to see it again. See what? The campground. No, absolutely not. Turn around. I'm not going back there. She unbuckled her seatbelt. What are you doing? If you won't turn around, I'll drive. Jessica, sit down. She grabbed the steering wheel. I tried to push her away and the RV swerved. A car behind us honked and swerved into the other lane. Stop it, I shouted. She let go and sat back, breathing hard. We were both shaking. I'm sorry, she said. I'm sorry. I don't know why I did that. I pulled over again. What the fuck was that? I don't know, I need to go back. Why? I don't know. She started crying. I'd seen Jessica cry maybe 3 times in the 2 years we'd been together. She wasn't a crier. Hey, I said, reaching for her. It's okay. It's not okay. Nothing's okay. I held her while she cried, and I tried not to think about what the voice on the phone had said. Don't let her go into the woods alone. And later, don't trust her. She's not. What? After a while, Jessica pulled away and wiped her face. I'm okay now, she said. Let's just go to Orlando. We drove in silence. Jessica stared out the window, and I kept glancing at her, trying to see if there was something different, something wrong. But she just looked like Jessica, tired and upset, but still her. We were about 40 minutes from Orlando when my phone rang again. I didn't want to answer it. I should have thrown the phone out the window miles ago, but I picked it up. The number was Jessica's. That's impossible, I said. What? Jessica looked over. I showed her the screen. Her number. But I'm right here, she said. I'm not calling you. She checked her phone. Not making a call. I answered mine. Hello? Jessica's voice came through, high and frightened. Daniel, where are you? I can't find you. I looked at Jessica next to me. She was staring at the phone in my hand, eyes wide. Who is this? I asked. It's me. It's Jessica. Where are you? I've been lost for hours. Lost where? In the forest. We were hiking, remember? You said you'd be right behind me, but when I turned around, you were gone. Please, I'm scared. It's getting dark. Jessica, the one next to me, reached for the phone. I pulled it away. Where are you? I asked again. I told you. The forest. The trail. The one by the campground. We left the campground. No, we didn't. We went hiking this morning. You said we had time for one more trail before we left. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. What's today's date? I asked. It's Sunday, November 20th. What did you have for breakfast? What? Daniel, what kind of question is that? I need help. Please. The voice on the phone started crying. It sounded exactly like Jessica. I looked at the woman sitting next to me. Let me talk to her, she said quietly. I handed her the phone. Hello? Jessica said. She listened. No, I'm with Daniel. We're in the RV. I don't know what you're talking about. No, we went hiking yesterday, not today. She listened for a long time, her face getting paler. That's not possible, she whispered. That didn't happen. She hung up and handed me the phone back. What did she say? I asked. She said. Jessica swallowed. She said she watched us pack up and leave, but we didn't see her. She said she's been trying to find her way back to the campground for hours, but the trail just keeps going. That's not real. I know. You're here. You're right here next to me. I know. But neither of us sounded convinced. We got to the RV rental place at noon. The woman at the desk asked how our trip was, and Jessica said it was fine. We did the walkthrough inspection, signed some papers, and got into our car. Let's just go home, Jessica said. We lived in Atlanta, about a 6-hour drive. I started heading north. About an hour into the drive, Jessica fell asleep. I watched her in the passenger seat, her head against the window. She looked peaceful. My phone was in the cup holder. It rang once, briefly, and the screen lit up before going dark again. I saw the notification, one missed call from Jessica. I didn't pick it up. We stopped for gas somewhere in Georgia. Jessica woke up when I pulled into the station. I need to use the bathroom, she said. Okay. She went inside while I filled the tank. When she came back, she was holding 2 bottles of water. Got you one, she said. Thanks. We got back in the car and kept driving. She didn't go back to sleep, she just sat there looking out the window. Can I ask you something? She said after a while. Sure. When you look at me, do you see anything different? What do you mean? I don't know. Different. Wrong. No, I lied. Because I did see something. I couldn't name it, but it was there. In the way she moved, the way she held her head. Little things that added up to something not quite right. Daniel? Yeah? I don't remember packing up the RV this morning. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. What do you mean? I remember going to sleep last night. And then I remember being in the RV on the highway. But the packing up part, it's not there. You were tired. Maybe. She was quiet again for a long time. Then, do you remember it? I thought about it. I remembered wanting to pack up. I remembered being in the parking lot. But the actual process of disconnecting and loading, that was hazy. Yeah, I said. I remember. Okay. But I don't think she believed me. We got to Atlanta around 7 that evening. Our apartment was on the 3rd floor of a building in Virginia Highland. Jessica went straight to the bedroom while I brought in our bags. I found her sitting on the bed staring at her phone. What's wrong? I have 53 missed calls, she said. All from my number. She showed me. The call log went back 3 days, all from her own number, all while she'd been with me. That's not possible, I said. I know. She started calling them back one by one. Each time it went straight to voicemail, her own voicemail with her own voice saying she wasn't available. On the 20th call, someone answered. Jessica's face went white. She put the call on speaker. Hello? Her voice said from the phone. Jessica? This is Jessica, my girlfriend said. I know. Are you safe? What? Are you safe? Are you still with Daniel? Jessica looked at me. Yes. Okay, that's good. Listen to me carefully. Do you remember going into the woods? We hiked. Yes. No, not hiking. After that. Do you remember going into the woods alone? At night? No. You need to remember. It's important. I don't know what you're talking about. The voice on the phone sighed. Okay, new question. When you look in the mirror, what do you see? What kind of question is that? Just answer. Jessica got up and walked to the bathroom. I followed her. She stood in front of the mirror, phone still on speaker. I see myself, she said. Are you sure? Yes. Look closer. Jessica leaned in. I stood behind her looking at her reflection over her shoulder. And that's when I saw it. Her reflection was different. Not in an obvious way, but the angle of her head didn't quite match. The timing of her blinks was off by maybe half a second, and when she moved her hand up to touch her face, the reflection hesitated before doing the same. Do you see it now? The voice on the phone asked. Jessica was frozen, staring at herself, or at whatever was staring back. What am I? She whispered. I don't know, but I'm me. I'm the real Jessica. I'm still in the forest. My girlfriend, Jessica, the one standing in front of me, turned around slowly. Her face was blank. Daniel? She said. I took a step back. I don't feel right, she said. It's okay, I said, though it wasn't. The phone was still on speaker. The voice said, Daniel, you need to listen to me. Whatever that is, it's not me. I don't know what happened, but something took my place. You need to get away from it. That's not true, the Jessica in front of me said. I'm me. I'm Jessica. I remember everything. Our first date when you burned the chicken. The time we went to Savannah and got lost. Your sister's wedding. Everything. So do I, the voice on the phone said. But only one of us is real. How do we know it's not you? I asked the phone. Silence, then. You don't. But Daniel, think about it. When did things start feeling wrong? I thought back. The campground, the strange calls, the woman I'd seen in the window. What happened in the woods? I asked. I don't know, the voice said. One minute I was with you. The next I was alone. And I've been trying to find my way back ever since. The Jessica in front of me was crying now. Please, Daniel. You know me. You know I'm real. I didn't know anything anymore. I need to think, I said. I walked out of the bathroom, out of the apartment, down to my car. Both of them called after me, but I kept walking. I sat in the parking lot for 2 hours. I tried to think logically about what was happening, but nothing made sense. Both Jessicas sounded real. Both acted real. And the idea that one was some kind of imposter or copy or whatever was impossible. But so were phone calls with your own voice. Eventually, I went back upstairs. The apartment was dark. I found Jessica, my Jessica, the one who'd been with me, sitting on the couch. Did she call back? I asked. No. Where's your phone? I turned it off. We sat in silence for a while. I don't know what I am, she said quietly. I feel real. I feel like myself. But what if I'm not? You are. How do you know? I didn't have an answer. That night we slept in the same bed, but neither of us really slept. I kept thinking about the phone calls, about the warnings. Don't let her go into the woods alone. Don't trust her. Around 3 a.m, Jessica got up. Where are you going? I asked. Bathroom. But she didn't come back. After 10 minutes, I got up to check on her. She was standing in front of the mirror again, just staring. Jessica? It's wrong, she said. The reflection. It's wrong. Come back to bed. I don't want to. I want to know what I am. You're Jessica. But which one? I didn't have an answer for that either. The next morning, I called in sick to work. Jessica didn't have anywhere to be. Her thesis was done, and she wasn't starting her new job until January. We sat around the apartment, not talking much. Around noon, my phone rang. Unknown number. I didn't want to answer it, but Jessica looked at me. It might be her, she said. I picked up. Hello? My own voice. Daniel, you need to check the storage compartment. What? In the RV, the storage compartment where you put the phone, there's something else in there, something you need to see. The RV's been returned. No, it hasn't. Check your email. I hung up and checked my email. There was a message from the rental company from that morning. Due to a mechanical issue, they'd needed to hold on to the RV for another day or two. They'd refund us for the extra days, but I'd seen them check it in. I'd watched them drive it to the lot. Jessica was reading over my shoulder. This is wrong, she said. We returned it yesterday. I know. So why? I don't know. We drove back to Orlando. Neither of us wanted to, but what choice did we have? The voice on the phone had sounded urgent, and part of me, the part that still believed in logical explanations, thought maybe I'd find some answer in that RV. We got to the rental place around 5 p.m. The same woman was at the desk. Oh, you're back, she said cheerfully. Change of plans? No, I said. We heard about the mechanical issue. We just wanted to grab something we left behind. Left behind? We didn't find anything when we inspected. It's in the outside storage compartment. Oh. She looked confused but handed me a key. It's in Bay 7. We walked out to the lot. The RV was right where I'd seen them park it yesterday. Except something was different. That's not the same one, Jessica said. She was right. The rental we'd had was a smaller model, white with blue trim. This one was larger, beige with brown trim. Maybe they moved it, I said, but I didn't believe it. I opened the storage compartment anyway. Inside were tools, some emergency supplies, and a phone. The same blue-cased iPhone I'd found in the woods. I picked it up. This time, it turned on immediately. No passcode required. There was one photo in the gallery. It was Jessica and me standing in front of our campsite in Ocala, but we were different. Jessica's hair was shorter. I was wearing glasses I didn't own. And behind us, partially hidden by the RV, was another couple. They looked exactly like us. "What the fuck?" Jessica breathed. I scrolled to the next photo. Same scene, but now there were 3 couples. All of us. The next photo showed 4 couples. The next showed 5. "Stop," Jessica said. "Please stop." But I kept scrolling. 10 couples. 20. 50. All standing in front of that same campsite. All looking exactly like us, but slightly different. Different clothes, different expressions, different times of day. The last photo was taken at night. There were so many versions of us that they filled the entire frame, their faces crowding together, all staring at the camera. And in the very center, one pair stood out. Because they were looking in a different direction. They were looking at something behind the camera. They were looking at us. I dropped the phone. Jessica and I ran back to the car. We didn't stop at the office. We just got in and drove. We're home now. It's been 3 days since we got back from Orlando. Jessica, my Jessica, the one I'm with, is in the bedroom. She hasn't looked in a mirror since that night at the rental place. Her phone keeps ringing. My phone keeps ringing. Unknown numbers. Our own numbers. Sometimes we answer, sometimes we don't. The voices on the other end are always us. Always saying we're lost, always begging for help. 2 days ago, I got a call from a number I recognized. My mother. But when I answered, it was my voice telling me that Mom was fine, but I needed to come home. To my childhood home in Minnesota. Because there was something there I needed to see. I haven't called my actual mother to ask if she's okay. I'm afraid of what she'll tell me. Jessica barely speaks now. She sits by the window looking out at the street. Sometimes she says she sees us out there walking by. Different versions. I don't see them, but I don't think that means they're not there. Last night I woke up to find her standing over me. "I need to go back," she said. "Back where?" "To the forest. To find out what happened to me. To find out which one I am." "You can't." "I have to." "Jessica, that's not my name," she said. "I don't think it ever was." She left this morning, took her car and drove south. I tried to stop her, but she wouldn't listen. Before she left, she looked at me, really looked at me, and said, "When you answer the phone and it's your voice, ask it one question for me." "What question?" "Ask it how many of you there are." She's been gone for 8 hours now. I've tried calling, but she doesn't answer. I keep thinking about that photo, about all those versions of us standing in front of the campsite. I keep wondering if we've been there before, if we keep going back, if we keep getting replaced. My phone is ringing right now. It's been ringing for 3 minutes straight. I can see it's from my own number. I don't want to answer it, but I'm going to. Because I need to know how many of me there are, and I need to know which one is real.